Well, the biggest storyline from week one of the Big Ten was clearly Ohio State beating Texas, but there are other storylines you need to know about. Plus, we make picks for week two.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, and it is a Locked On crossover edition of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Zach Seyko, host of Locked On Nittany Lions. And we're back for another week of a crossover Big Ten kind of preview, review type of episode. It's kind of a little bit of everything here this week on our respective channels. And excited to get into picks for week two because some really fascinating matchups coming up around the Big Ten. Plus, Penn State and Indiana. We're both 1-0, just kind of feels a little bit different. But, Zach, we start with takeaways and thoughts from week one outside of Texas, Ohio State. We'll get to that in just a moment. But maybe a game for you that went under the radar that people need to know about from week one.
I like what I saw from Michigan and Bryce Underwood. Okay. And that's gonna play a lot into my expectations for week two against Oklahoma. But, also Utah and UCLA. Now, I thought UCLA would be. I was not buying into any Bruins will upset them or win convincingly.
Right.
That was again. Deshaun Foster is not the head coach that Kyle Whittingham is, and Nico Iamaleava. You know about transfer quarterbacks in their first game, so you can speak to that. But It's going to be a work in progress for UCLA. I didn't think it'd be that bad. All right, let's just say that 40 because hey, Utah had its own starting quarterback out of the transfer portal. So the excuse that I say for UCLA, it doesn't apply to Utah again. You combine coaching, personnel, all that stuff matters. I also want to give props to Purdue. I mean, Purdue looked good, granted against it's a Ball State team out of the MAC, but I do think coaching matters. Barry Odom is a really good coach. Maryland too. I thought that Florida. Now this is one where I really am wrong. I was wrong about Ohio State and Texas too, but I thought Florida Atlantic would give Maryland a scare. They did not. So Maryland, Malik Washington, they are trending in the right direction, and Mike Locksley very well might save his job.
Yeah, I mean, Malik Washington was a lot better than most people gave him credit for, at least in game one. And look, Seyko, I'm with you. I hate to say it, and I even gave credit earlier in the week on Locked On Hoosiers, but Purdue looked good. They jumped on Ball State early. They shut out a team, which in today's era of college football is hard to do, and they looked disciplined. They looked talented. They looked good. Now, it is Ball State, and Purdue has a long way to go, but I'm with you. I think they looked solid. Nico and UCLA just looked lost, and I think it shows how good Dan Pierre's going to be out at Utah, who could be a sleeper to make the college football playoff, is Utah. Yeah. You went on the positive side, my friend. I'm going on the negative side. Rutgers has to win a shootout against Ohio. Wisconsin shuts out Miami of Ohio, but is only up 3-0 at halftime. Our boy Ryan over at Locked On Badgers was sweating at halftime. I mean, what in the world was the offensive performance in Madison?
I am not surprised, honestly. I just think, again, it goes back to, here's the thing. So Miami of Ohio is traditionally a defensive team. Wisconsin, it doesn't even have to really do with Luke Fickell here. It has to do with the fact that Wisconsin is going through an identity crisis at the moment. They are going back and forth. They can't decide, do we want to embrace Luke Fickell's system of this spread, air raid offense, or go back to tradition and force Luke Fickell to adapt his system to what we want to do as the Badgers, running the football, staying true to our roots and the core historic identity of Wisconsin. So there's a little bit of a power struggle here. I don't see it working out very much longer for Luke Fickell.
Ryan swears that we're wrong, though, Seyko. Ryan says ain't no way that he gets fired from Wisconsin this year.
It might not even be about a results thing. It just might not be a good fit.
Yeah,
it just might not be a good fit.
Yeah. It very well could be. How much are you buying into the Nebraska win on Thursday night, which could look good, could not? I mean, it was ugly. They came back and beat Cincinnati. It's a win over a Power 4 team, technically. Are you buying into what Dylan Raiola did at Nebraska over Cincinnati on Thursday?
Absolutely. I liked what I saw from Nebraska in terms of the way that they controlled the game. Sorsby, the Cincinnati quarterback, did not look good. I mean, that Nebraska defense deserves a lot of the credit there. So if the defense will be able to hold its own, not be a liability, keep the offense in games as the offense gets better. Again, they have weapons. You saw it with Hunter and the catch that he made for a touchdown. You saw it with Dane Key. He also got involved and had a touchdown as well. Raiola looked fine. He's a true sophomore still, okay? This is a team that is only going to get better. So Nebraska being able to hold on in a close, ugly game, neutral site, I get it. Cincinnati's not a pushover. That is not a bad team. No. There's a reason that spread was the way it was. Oh, it's Cincinnati. Nebraska should win by 2 touchdowns. No, they shouldn't. So it's a gritty, not pretty win. If they had lost this game, I'd have a few question marks. But again, Nebraska's still at a point where they could absolutely be undefeated all the way up until that Penn State game. It is very much on the table. I am not saying it is likely. I am not saying I expect it to happen. I'm saying it is a realistic possibility that they could be 10-0.
You know who looked really good? And I hope that Spencer does not watch this episode or listen to this episode, because Dante Moore in Oregon looked really, really good. And I know it's Montana State, I know, but Dante Moore, 18 of 23, 213 yards and 3 touchdowns, and made it look easy. Man, I mean, that was a big question, and it will still be a big question for Oregon in bigger games against better defenses and bigger competition and bigger moments. But, I mean, Oregon answered a lot of questions in week 1, Seyko. They looked really, really good.
Montana State's a really good FCS team. They're in the top 10 when it comes to the FCS. So no Idaho State all over again, because remember, Oregon struggled with an FCS team last go around and it looked pretty rough. But this time, right out of the gate, cannons firing. This is an Oregon team that looks a little more polished on offense despite a new quarterback, a new running back, a new offensive line. But it helps when for the most part, I'm not going to say everybody because their running back comes out of the transfer portal and everything else. But Dante Moore, I don't think people properly estimate the value of sitting behind Dylan Gabriel for one season. You have that starting experience. You learn all the ugly with Chip Kelly at UCLA. You take a back seat, go to a system where you can be supported and learn things. And now you have the proper setup to go and spring forward. You don't have anything that you got to work out. And again, Oregon should win this way, but there really weren't that many glaring mistakes. Football's football at the end of the day. So they performed the way that I expected them to, and they limited the mistakes for an offense that's going through a transition. It makes me even more excited for the Wideout game come September 27th.
And I know we started this segment and have avoided the Ohio State-Texas game because that was the biggest result, but we got to talk about it before we move on. The Buckeyes defended the conference. They did what I said they would do. Not many people picked them. I did pick Ohio State to win, and I also think, Seyko, that they deserve the number 1 ranking they received this week in the AP poll. I don't think LSU deserves the number 1 spot yet. Great win on the road at Clemson. Ohio State beat what was the number 1 ranked team. They deserve to be the number 1 team in the nation. That's just one man's opinion.
Well, what surprised me there was Ohio State's defense, because I do think that Ohio State's offense is going to lack. So the same things that I say about, my assumption for Indiana, my assumption for Nebraska, Michigan, all those teams are going to go through some growing pains. And so is Ohio State's offense with a new play caller. Now, granted, Ryan Day's still an offensive mastermind, and you have Jeremiah Smith and company, but as you saw, Texas is a top 3 defense. Yes. Whether we think they're better or for worse, that's a top 3 objectively. That's a top 3 defense. But it was Ohio State's defense that was completely smothering, because I eventually thought, okay, Texas is going to get a breakthrough. It's going to be ugly, but eventually Texas is going to have that breakthrough and put them away. The game was a lot closer than I think we realized. It came down to a goal line stand, but it was the Buckeyes making fewer mistakes defensively than Texas did. So Matt Patricia, Johnny Manziel makes a good point. And I want to share this here. I've already talked about it on my end of things at Locked On Nittany Lions. Johnny Manziel talked about, and again, I'm going to listen to anybody that's played college and pro ball. Their opinion matters, whether they're right or wrong at the end. I still want to hear their perspective because they've done it. He pointed out that Matt Patricia has gone up against the likes of Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford and Ben Roethlisberger and Drew Brees over the course of his career, he must be chomping at the bit to go up against the likes of an Arch Manning or any of these college quarterbacks. This is easy for him. It's a fantastic point. So Matt Patricia taking a little bit of a step back after some turmoil with Detroit and then Philadelphia most recently. This is easy stuff for him. It's the reset that he needed, and Ohio State's just kind of loaded with talent. So they put it all together, even though it is a new system for them, and the Buckeyes should be number one in the country.
I agree with that. Week 1 was a lot of fun around the Big Ten, and later on we get to make picks for week 2, but our two teams say go. We're 1-0 to start the season, but it might feel a little bit different in Bloomington than it does in Happy Valley. We talk about that next here on a Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions.
And this episode is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Nittany Lion fans, are you still paying for a full... And today's episode is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Nittany Lion fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Well, stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and you'll get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought this was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL. Again, that is FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. Promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. Because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go the extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep moving the game forward. And you want to talk about moments that keep the game moving forward for Penn State. Well, Kyron Hudson Trebor Pena certainly had an impact in the passing game, but I think about one specific play with Kyron Hudson really making that impact. When Drew Aller pocket breaks down, he rolls to his non-dominant side. He's rolling to his left as a righty and delivers an absolute dart to Kyron Hudson, who is standing in the end zone making the catch. That's how you keep the game moving forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to Mazda. Mazda, move and be moved. We continue with this crossover episode, talking the full Big Ten perspective from the lens of Penn State and Indiana. And we focus on those two teams that we covered. The Nittany Lions getting a dominant victory. Nothing less should have been expected. 46-11, backdoor cover by Nevada with Penn State's reserves in there. Jacob, I have some takeaways about Penn State, but I think it's important to focus on Indiana first because this was not the kind of like the Ohio Rutgers game. This was a game that the Hoosiers, despite the changes, I believe that Curt Cignetti is a top 10 coach in the country. I really don't know that there are any excuses. Now, shout out to Ricky Ronnie, who's the former offensive coordinator from Penn State over at Old Dominion. So maybe Old Dominion maybe I should give them a little more credit since there's a former Penn State coach over there. Still, 27-14, it's a double-digit victory, but it's not flattering, and it's not the way that Indiana wants to start the season.
No, and on the scoreboard, it looks worse than the game was actually played out, right? 27-14 is not sexy by any means. It's not acceptable by any means, I think, from Curt Cignetti or the players or from Indiana fans. But I do want to remind people that Old Dominion's a pretty good team, not in the P4. Like they've given people trouble in the past, but Indiana won this game by more than 2 scores. This was a 4-score game that it felt like on the field, off the field, just throughout 4 quarters. Indiana stalled inside the 5 twice. And you also gave up 2 rushing scores to the starting quarterback of Old Dominion, a 75-yard score and a 78-yard score on the exact same play on a read option that Indiana cut inside. He took off outside and he took it to the house. That's it. You take away those 2 plays, less than 100 yards of total offense, and Old Dominion did absolutely nothing. Indiana runs the ball a ton with several new players in that room. On paper, Indiana dominates this game. On film, Indiana dominates this game. Okay. You just didn't get it done on the scoreboard. And Kurt Cignetti talked about that on Monday, Zach. He said, look, we won this game handily. We need to have that reflected on the scoreboard. So I think they will. You got Kennesaw State coming in this week, and we'll talk more about that momentarily. But yeah, I'm sorry. Is it, I forget who y'all, is it FIU? No, it's even worse than that.
It is FIU this week.
Oh, okay. It is FIU. Okay.
FIU runs circles around Kennesaw State, so don't you talk anything.
You're right. But I think Indiana will be more focused and just execute on offense a little bit better. Wasn't the debut fans were looking for from Fernando Mendoza. He was fine, no touchdowns, no picks, but the passing game wasn't what the Hoosier fans wanted it to be. I think that will get fixed in due time. Run game looked good. Secondary had 3 picks as well. Yeah. All is well on that side of the football. So it will get there. It just, the final score doesn't reflect how this game played out, in my opinion.
No, and when you actually go through the nuts and bolts of this, Indiana having over 40 minutes of possession time, yeah, that's huge. You have the 3 interceptions, so you win the turnover battles. You have more yardage per play. Okay, so yes, overall, Indiana had in total 500 yards. But I look at, the third down efficiency. I look at, how many yards per play. Yep. Mendoza getting a little involved in the running game too. But that time of possession, 42 points. It doesn't need to be 60-0 every time. Right. It doesn't. These are the games where you build depth, you learn more about your identity, and that's what Penn State is doing too. So Penn State 46-11. They had not allowed a touchdown until the final 30 seconds, under a minute left in that game. Yep. When the 3rd and 4th string players were in. I would say the ground, to just rehash it for Penn State and educate anybody that is truly looking for another Big Ten perspective. The ground game was not great, but this was a game where Penn State wanted to emphasize the passing attack. You have 3 new wide receivers. You have a brand new starting tight end that has to pick up production for the guy that was literally a Heisman contender. So this is an entirely brand new passing attack aside from Drew Aller. So it wasn't about the ground game. Oh, well, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen are overrated. This offensive line isn't as good as everybody says it is. No, they are. They are. But it wasn't about Penn State's rushing attack. It was about getting Kyron Hudson involved, Trebor Pena involved now, so you don't have to worry about it against Oregon. Because Oregon's not going to give you that same kind of, they're not going to give you those kind of opportunities. Yeah. But so Penn State, 46-11, probably expect another similar situation here against FIU.
So let me ask you this then. When it comes to the Penn State offense, because of the receiving core that they have and bringing Drew Aller back for one more year to try and make that push for a national title, what what do you think Big Ten teams will have to prepare for more? Is it the passing game, or will it eventually be the running game for Penn State once you do get into Big Ten play?
Everything. That's the thing. The reason why Penn State, and that's the thing about Penn State from a season ago, is they were one-dimensional. Yeah. And they still made it to the semifinal. So now you have a diverse, it's the depth of weapons that Penn State now has at its disposal. My goodness. At its disposal, where it's not just the Tyler Warren show and then Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. And maybe you get something from Trey Wallace, maybe, but obviously against better competition, you notice that went away. So it was really those 3 players, but now it's Singleton and Allen, both as runners and as receivers. Eventually you'll see that more.
Which is big.
This isn't just an assessment after week 1. This is knowing the long game for this Penn State offense. Aller can run the football. He's not going to do it a lot, but he can move. He'll take an option read and run it for 10 to 20 yards. Be aware of that. So it's that the QB can move more than you think he does. Singleton and Allen as rushers and receivers. Now Kyron Hudson, Devontae Ross, Trebor Pena, legitimately three tight ends.
Yeah.
That Tyler Warren was just one guy. Now it's Khalil Dinkins, Andrew Rapplier, and Luke Reynolds.
That's not normal.
I just named 7 or 8 different players that can have an impact and be the leading player either in the passing game or in the ground game at any given moment. And Penn State's going to run 7 offensive lineman sets. They can go power O and just in the same ways that Michigan and Ohio State beat them in crunch time these past couple of years. Penn State's going to give it back to anybody that the opponent that stands in their way.
Yeah, Indiana may not have all of that, but I was impressed with the offensive line play. And again, if Indiana fans were kind of upset and kind of losing it about Fernando Mendoza and the lack of production and things, but I said the fact that we ran the football as much as we did, and you had a dude with over 20 carries in Roman Hemby, your Maryland transfer, give me the ground game early in the season, and the passing game will find itself in due time. Now, you can figure out the passing game with Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper, 2 of the best receivers in the Big Ten, plus 2 new tight ends, and EJ Williams is now emerging as the third string guy or the third go-to guy as a receiver. The passing game will figure itself out. I think for Indiana, the fact that you pounded the rock and ran the football and you had a punt return touchdown too. So that was exciting. You had a special team score in there, which kind of helped you out a little bit. So overall, both of our teams are 1-0, Seyko. And just, again, it feels like the feelings in Happy Valley were, yep, that's exactly how that was supposed to go. We did it the way we wanted to. People in Bloomington are like, I don't know. I kind of want to see it one more time against Kennesaw State before we really start feeling good about ourselves.
And that's what I mean when I say that Indiana is going to be a second half team. It's going from one group of key players to now a totally new group of key players. So Kurt Cignetti will have his work cut out for him. But the non-conference schedule, it's a cupcake, but it is strategic. And I think Indiana helps it, similarly to Penn State, helps itself out. Week 2, okay, Kennesaw State, Florida International, that's not going to get, those aren't 2 enticing matchups for the general, kind of, for Penn State and Indiana, respectively. However, there are some really entertaining non-conference college football matchups, one that features Michigan and Oklahoma. Can the Wolverines continue to carry on what the Big Ten has shown as the best conference in college football? Well, we're going to talk about it next here on this Locked On Crossover. And this episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Now for Penn State, I got to go with 2 players. I can't even go with just one. Trebor Pena and Kyron Hudson, leading the day in receiving, but giving Penn State more confidence in its passing attack. They delivered in a big way. Trebor Pena, 7 catches, 74 yards. Kyron Hudson, 6 receptions, 89 yards, and 1 touchdown. What an impact they had. And if you watch that game, you know that performance was not a fluke, and they are on a streak. And just like Pena and Hudson delivered for Penn State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday on your order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. So order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is through November 18th.
All right, final segment on this Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. And now we get to make picks for week 2. We're in the part of the season where we review and now we preview. And some really fun matchups for the Big Ten this week and some cross-conference games. And none bigger, Seyko, than Michigan and Oklahoma. The Wolverines heading on the road to the SEC to take on the Sooners in a game that could have a ton of points or no points. I have no idea which direction this one's going to go. Can Michigan, like you said, can they defend the Big Ten and get it done once again against the SEC?
So Ohio State did that against Texas in a top 3 matchup there. Hey, Michigan and Oklahoma, they're within the top 20, but these are 2 teams that expect to be in the college football playoff.
Yep.
This let me point out the fact that this is Bryce Underwood's first career road start and in a hostile environment, to say the least, but also a very quality opponent. So it's not just, oh, well, this team has home field advantage. No, Oklahoma is looking for a resurgence, such a resurgence that Brent Venables took a pay cut just to help out with NIL efforts with the Sooners. So they are all in on trying to get back to the spot where Lincoln Riley had them not too long ago, but it hasn't exactly worked out in this new regime. I know it's New Mexico week 1, Michigan and Bryce Underwood looked like a veteran college football quarterback that has been playing for quite some time. The throws that he made were better than a majority of they looked like Drew Aller throws where they had zip. They had zip on them. They were quick. They were decisive. They were accurate. He was throwing blocks. Like I said, he looked like a 3rd or a 4th year player that he's been doing this for quite some time. Give me Michigan. I think Michigan wipes the floor against Oklahoma, actually. This isn't it. So I was wrong with Ohio State and Texas. So let me try my hand again at this. I think Michigan goes on the road and wins this game decisively. And when I say that, they will be in control. That's not a 3-4 touchdown deficit like a TCU North Carolina situation. See, I should give those other picks because I had TCU all the way. I was not ready to take on Bill Belichick there. Yeah. But I digress. I do think the Wolverines could win 7-10 and be in the lead late in the game and in control against. I just don't think this. I don't think Venables has taken them in the right direction. And I'm not completely sold on John Mateer, so that's where this stems from. So, and Michigan's defense is a top 10, maybe a top 5 defense in the country. So I'm going to side with them and go with the Wolverines here to win.
Wow, you've got Michigan going on the road, pulling the upset against Oklahoma in the big bad SEC.
Well, it's a spread upset, yeah.
Yeah, spread upset, yeah. I mean, FanDuel, our friends over there, have it anywhere between 5 and 6, depending on when you look at this. But look, I'm taking the quarterback that's been here before. I'm taking the quarterback that's played in a big game like this before, and the quarterback that's playing at home. I'm taking John Mateer. I am. I'm taking John Mateer in Oklahoma. I mean, I think Michigan and Bryce Underwood looked good in week 1. I think they'll continue to look good. They'll be in this game, but I have Oklahoma pulling off a home win over the Big Ten. And we move on because a couple of really sneaky good games across college football that may not get the national spotlight, but we are going to talk about them in the Big Ten. Unfortunately, 2 of them happen at the exact same time. We'll start with the team that comes to Bloomington in just a couple of weeks, who's flirting with the top 10, the Illinois Fighting Illini, favored on the road in Durham, North Carolina, when they take on a really talented Duke team out of the ACC. Can Illinois get in and out with a win, Mr. Seyko?
I would like to think so, but this feels like some sort of trap game.
No. I
think the 2.5 point spread, give or take, is disrespectful. That Illinois isn't even over a field goal at this point. I get it. It's a road game against Duke, but Brett Bielema versus Manny Diaz, Luke Altmaier versus Mensa, the quarterback who transferred in for the Blue Devils. I just think Illinois has more. I imagine that they win decisively too. Again, that touchdown, 10 points, they're in control late in the game. I just don't look at Duke as that hostile road environment. That's a basketball school, not a football school. So I'm going against a former Penn State defensive coordinator in Manny Diaz. I like Diaz. I want to see him succeed. I just don't think it's this weekend.
I thought the way you started that out, I thought you were going with Duke. I thought you were saying, man, the spread is weird and everything's going against Illinois. I thought you were going to go.
That's what I mean. Is this a trap? Is this supposed to...
The spread smells really weird, Seyko.
It does smell stinky.
If it smells like cologne, you leave it alone right here. They're begging you to take Illinois. They're begging you to take Illinois, right? 2.5. But I think Illinois is a better team. I do. I think they're a much better team. I think Duke is a good team in the ACC that will have a say on who makes it to the college football playoff out of that conference, but they're not getting this win. Give me Illinois to go on the road, 12 noon on ESPN. I have Illinois taking down Duke as well. And a rivalry that's been one for a long time, and 2 fan bases that are so passionate and cannot wait for this thing to get kicked off at noon Eastern time on Fox. It's Iowa on the road at what is now a top 20 team in Iowa State. Iowa State favored by 3.5 in this game on Saturday. Are you taking the Big Ten? Or are you taking the Big 12? Can Kirk Ferentz and Iowa go 2-0, or will Iowa State start 3-0?
I love what I've seen from Iowa State between the game out in Ireland against Kansas State. Now, granted, it can follow it up with South Dakota, but Rocco Becht is starting to convince me that he is a legitimate top 10 quarterback, and maybe if he continues this trend, maybe he vaults himself into the top 5. Iowa does not have that. They looked rough in week 1, and I get it. They ultimately settled in against Albany, but Mark Gronowski just didn't look the part. Iowa, again, I classify that as a team as they have so many changes, coaching changes, player changes, just personnel changes overall. Iowa State has more consistency and continuity. It's a home game for them, right? Okay, so I will take the Cyclones in this battle because I don't think Iowa is ready to peak yet. I think Iowa State is peaking now.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. I'm taking Iowa State, and I'm taking Iowa State with the points. I think they win by a touchdown or more in this game. I just think they have too many weapons offensively. Everybody wrote them off going into week 0. Nobody picked them to beat Kansas State. And now, look, Kansas State's barely surviving in week 1. I'm with you. I'm taking Iowa State to win and to cover. And a game on paper last week that looked like it was going to be good, kind of rapid fire here at the end. Oklahoma State heading out to Eugene was supposed to be a really fun matchup, one that was going to be unique and one that we just don't see all that often. But with some quarterback injuries and issues with the Pokes, Oregon's now favored by 4 touchdowns, and they might even cover that spread.
Yeah, at the game, I would have expected Oregon to win decisively, and we're talking 2 to 3 touchdowns as it was even before Oklahoma State's starting quarterback is now, I think, out for the season. So the Ducks shouldn't have any issues here. I don't know. I kind of feel bad at this point for for Oklahoma State,
especially with how good Oregon looked in week 1 too. I mean, Dante Moore may just have a field day.
I don't know. I think Mike Gundy is trying to keep up with NIL. I just don't think it's going to work out for him. I think Oklahoma State's gonna make a move at some point here. And
calling out Dan Lanning for spending money in a press conference the week of's not really what you're looking for.
Adapt or get left behind, and Mike Gundy is doing the exact opposite of adapting.
You are right about that. Yeah, I'm taking Oregon, and I'm taking Oregon big. Okay, rapid fire here quickly. Boston College on the road at Michigan State and East Lansing. The Spartans only favored by 3.5 on Saturday night.
Billy O'Brien. I mean, he used to coach at Penn State. So again, we're talking about all these games with former Penn State coaches, coordinators, turned head coaches, other places. So I am going to be rooting for Boston College because, yes, Bill O'Brien was a former Penn State head coach, but also I don't know that I want to see Michigan State build some momentum. And so, but to take the fan perspective away from it, Boston College looked really good. I think Bill O'Brien now has his quarterback and some more personnel that he's been able to build now over time going into year 2. He has the players that fit his system best. And when it comes to Childs, the quarterback, and Nick Marsh at Michigan State, better days are ahead for them, but not right now in the present. Ooh. I also think O'Brien is better than Jonathan Smith. Give me Boston College to get that upset victory, even though they should be favored.
Wow. I'll go the other way. I'll say Michigan State has a bounce back week, even though they won in week 1. They looked terrible against Western Michigan. This will be a bounce back win. Give me Michigan State to pull off the win against Boston College. Here quickly on the way out, Nico and UCLA, they got blasted in week 1 against Utah. They now go on the road to Las Vegas and take on Dan Mullen and UNLV, who are 2-0, by the way, and UCLA barely a favorite in this game. I'll give you mine. I'm taking UNLV. Why? Because of pure chaos, baby.
Yeah, UNLV, I just think first game jitters under Dan Mullen, but he's still a better coach than Deshaun Foster.
You're right about that.
Personnel matters, especially early in the season. Dan Mullen's been doing this for a much longer period of time. Yep. I think Foster and UCLA will eventually settle in, but not until year 4, year 5. So I hope you're committed to it for the long run, UCLA, because it's not going to be pretty right now.
Man, I'm with you, and it could get ugly in Los Angeles very, very fast. A very underrated week 2 around the Big Ten and in college football, and it's so much fun talking all of this with Zach Seyko, host of Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers. We'll do this every week on our respective channels, recap the week from before, preview the week of and talk about the biggest storylines in our respective schools as well. Make sure you follow us on both of our audio platforms, anywhere on social media as well, and on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts down in the YouTube comments below. We're back on our respective channels tomorrow for another episode of Nittany Lions and Hoosiers. And until next time, Big Ten fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.